Good morning, crime community. I'm here to continue to read out Edgar Allan Poe. This is called Three Sundays in a Week. You you hard-hearted, dunder-headed, obstinate, rusty, crusty, musty, fusty old savage, said I, in fancy, one afternoon, to my granduncle, Rumgudgeon, shaking my fist at him in imagination, only in imagination. The fact is, some trivial discrepancy did exist just then between what I said and what I had not the courage to say, between what I did and what I had half a mind to do. The old porpoise, as I opened the drawing room door, was sitting with his feet upon the mantelpiece and a bumper of port in his paw, making strenuous efforts to accomplish the ditty Rempellus ton verde vide, vide ton vere plein. My dear uncle, said I, closing the door gently and approaching him with the blandest of smiles, you are always so very kind and considerate, and have evinced your benevolence in so very many ways, that I feel I have only to suggest this little point to you once more to make sure you're full acquaintances. Hem, said he, good boy, go on. I am sure, my dearest uncle, you confounded old rascal, that you have no design really, seriously, to oppose my union with Kate. There is merely a joke of yours, I know, ha ha ha, how very pleasant you are at times. Ha ha ha, he said. Curse you, yes, to be sure, of course, I know you were jesting. Now, uncle, all that Kate and myself wish at present is that you would oblige us with your advice as regards the time, uncle, in short, when it will be most convenient for yourself that the wedding shall come off. Come off, you scoundrel. What do you mean by that? Better wait till it goes on. Ha ha ha, he, ha ha ha, ho ho, hoo, and that's capital. Such a wit. But all we want just to know, uncle, is that would indicate the time precisely. Precisely? Yes, uncle, that is. It would be quite agreeable to yourself. Wouldn't it, answered Bobby, if I were to leave it at random, sometime within a year or so, for example, must I say precisely? If you please, uncle, precisely. Well then, Bobby, my boy, you're a fine fellow, aren't you? Since you will have the exact time, I'll oblige you at once. Dear uncle, hush, sir, drowning my voice. I'll oblige you for once. You shall have my consent. And the plum, we mustn't forget the plum. Let me see. Then shall it be? Today's Sunday, isn't it? Well, then, you shall be married precisely, now mind, when 3 Sundays come together in a week. Do you hear me, sir? What are you gaping at? I say you shall have Kate and her plum when 3 Sundays come together in a week, but not till then, you young scapegrace. No, till then, if I die for it, you know me, I'm a man of my word. Be off. Here be swallow his temper of port, while I rush from the room in despair. A very fine old English gentleman was my granduncle Rumgrudgeon, but unlike him of the song, he had his weak points. He was a little pursy, pompous, passionate, semi-peculiar somebody, with a red nose, a thick skull, a long purse, and a strong sense of his own consequence. With the best heart of the world, he contrived, through a predominant whim of contradiction, to earn for himself, among those who only knew him superficially, the character of a curmudgeon. Like many excellent people, he deemed possessed with a spirit of tantalization which might easily, as a carousal glance, have been mistaken for malevolence. To every request, a positive no was his immediate answer, but in the end, in the long end, there was exceedingly few requests which he refused. Against all attacks upon his purse, he made the most sturdy defense, but the amount extorted from him at last was generally in direct ratio with the length of the siege and the stubbornness of the resistance. In charity, no one gave more liberally or with a worse grace. For the fine arts, and especially for the belles lettres, he entered a profound contempt. With this he had been inspired by Cashmere Perrier, whose pert little query, a coy and poet, Iselbon, he was in the habit of quoting with a very droll pronunciation as the ne plus ultra of logical wit. Thus, my own inkling for the Muses had excited his entire displeasure. He assured me one day that if I asked him for a new copy of Horace, that the translation of Poeta nascitur non fit was a nasty poet for nothing fit, a remark which I took in high dudgeon. His repugnance to the humanities had also much increased of late by an accidental bias in favor of what he supposed to be natural science. Somebody had accosted him in the street, mistaking him for no less a personage than Dr. Double LD, the lecturer on quack physics. This set him off on a tangent, and just as the epic of this story for telling it is getting to be, after all, my grand uncle Rumgrudgeon was accessible and pacific only upon points which happened to chime in with the caproles of the hobby he was riding. For the rest, he laughed with his arms and legs, and his politics were stubborn and easily understood. He thought that Horsley said that people have nothing to do with the laws but to obey them. I had lived with the old gentleman all my life. My parents, in dying, had bequeathed me to him as a rich legacy. I believe the old villain loved me in his own child, nearly not quite as well as he loved Kate, but it was a dog's existence that he led me after all. From my first year until my fifth, he obliged me with the very regular floggings. From 5 to 15, he threatened me hourly with the House of Correction. From 15 to 20, not a day passed in which he did not promise to cut me off with a shilling. I was sad, dog, it is true, and then it was part of my nature, a point of my faith. In Kate, however, I had a firm friend, and I knew it. She was a good girl and told me very sweetly that I might have her plum and all whenever I could badger my granduncle Rumgrudgeon into a necessary consent. Poor girl, I was barely 15, and without her consent, her little amount in the funds was not come at able until 5 immeasurable summers had dragged through slow length along. What then to do at 15 or even at 21? For I had now passed my 50th Olympiad. 5 years in prospect is very much the same as 500. In vain we besieged the old gentleman with inopportunities. There was a piece de resistance, as Messire Ude et Carnet would say, which suited his perverance fantasy to a T. He would have stirred the indignation of Job himself to see how much like an old monster he behaved to us poor wretched little mice. In his heart he wished for nothing more ardently than our union. He had made up his mind to do this all alone. In fact, he would have given 10,000 pounds from his own pocket. Kate's plum was her own if she had invented anything like an excuse for complying with the very natural wishes. But then she had been so imprudent as to broach these subjects ourselves, so not to oppose it under such circumstances, I sincerely believe, was not in his power. I have already that he has had his weak points, but in speaking of these, I must not be understood as referring to his obstinacy, which was one of his strong points, assurément de n'ignat pas son faible. Then when I mention his weakness, I have allusion to a bizarre old womanish superstition which he beset him. He was great in dreams, portents, et ingenious omne e rigmarole. He was excessively punctilious too upon small points of honor, and after his old fashion was a man of his word beyond doubt. That was in fact one of his hobbies. The spirit of his vows he made no scruple of setting at naught, but the letter was a bond inviolable. And now it was this latter peculiarity in his deposition of which Kate ingenuity enabled us one fine day, not long after our interview in the dining room, to take a very unexpected advantage, and having thus, in the fashion of all modern bards and orators, exhausted in promegalomania, all the time at my command and nearly all the room in my disposal, I will sum up a few words that constitutes the whole pith of the story. It happened then, so the fates ordered it, that among the naval acquaintances of my betrothed were 2 gentlemen who had just set foot upon the shores of England. After a year's absence, each in foreign travel, in company with these gentlemen, My cousin and I preconcertedly paid Uncle Rumudgeon a visit on the afternoon of Sunday, October the 10th, just 3 weeks after the memorial decision, which had so crudely defeated our hopes. But after an hour and a half, the conversation ran upon ordinary topics. But at last we contrived quite naturally to give it the following turn. Captain Pratt, well, I have been absent just 1 year. Just 1 year today, and I live, let me see. Yes, this is October the 10th. You remember, Mr. Grudgmian? I called this year to bid you goodbye. And by the way, it does seem something like a coincidence, does it not, that our friend Captain Smitherton here has been absent exactly a year ago, a year today? Smitherton, yes, 1 year to a fraction. Will you remember, Mr. Rumgrudgeon, that I called with Captain Pratt on this very day last year to pay my parting respects? Uncle, yes, 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 I remember it very well. Very queer indeed. Both of you'd gone just 1 year. A very strange coincidence indeed. Just what Dr. Double LD would demonstrate, an extraordinary concurrence of events. Dr. Dub, Kate interrupting. To be sure, Papa, it was something strange, but then Captain Pratt and Captain Smitherton didn't go along the same route, and they make a difference, you know. Uncle, I don't know any such thing, you hussy. How should I? I think it only makes the matter more remarkable. Dr. Double LD, Kate, why, Papa, Captain Pratt went round Cape Horn and Captain Smitherton doubled the Cape of Good Hope. Uncle, precisely. The one went east and the other one went west, you jade, and they both have gone quite round the world. By the by, Dr. Double LD, myself, hurriedly, Captain Pratt, you must come and spend the evening with us tomorrow, you and Smitherton. You can tell us all about your voyage, and we'll have the game at whist. And Pratt, whist, my dear fellow, you forget. Tomorrow will be Sunday. Some other evening? Kate, oh no, fie. Robert's not quite so bad as that. Today's Sunday. Uncle, to be sure, to be sure. Pratt, I beg both your pardons, but I can't be so much mistaken. I know tomorrow's Sunday because. Smitherton, much surprised. What are you all thinking about? Wasn't yesterday Sunday? I would like to know. All. Yesterday, indeed. You are out. Uncle, today's Sunday, I say. Don't I know? Pratt, oh no, tomorrow's Sunday. Smitherton, you are all mad, every one of you. I am as positive that yesterday was Sunday as I am that I sit upon this chair. Kate, jumping up eagerly. I see it all. Papa, this is a judgment upon you about you that what? Let me alone and I'll explain it all in a minute. It's a very simple thing indeed. Captain Smitherton says that yesterday was Sunday. So it was. He was right. Cousin Bobby and Uncle and I say that today is Sunday, so it is. We are right. Captain Pratt maintains that tomorrow will be Sunday, so it is will. He is right too. The fact is, we are all right, and this 3 Sundays have come together in a week. Smitherton, after a pause. By the by, Pratt, Kate has us completely. What fools we two are. Mr. Rumgrudgmian, the matter stands thus. The earth, you know, is 24,000 miles in circumference, and this globe, as the earth turns upon its own axis, revolves, spins round these 24,000 miles of extent, going from west to east in precisely 24 hours. Do you understand, Mr. Rumgrudgeon? Uncle, to be sure, Dr. Dub. Smitherton, drowning his voice. Well, sir, that is the rate of 1,000 miles per hour. Now suppose that I shall sail from this position 1,000 miles east. Of course, I anticipate the rising of the sun here at London by just 1 hour. I see the sun rise 1 hour before you do. Proceeding in the same direction, yet another 1,000 miles, I anticipate the rising by 2 hours. Another 1,000, and I anticipate it by 3 hours. And so on until I go entirely around the globe and back to the spot when I have gone 24,000 miles east and anticipate the rising of the London sun by no less than 24 hours. That is to say, I am a day in the advance of your time. Understand, eh? Uncle, double LD. Smitherton, speaking very loud. Captain Pratt, on the contrary, when he had sailed 1,000 miles west of his position, was an hour, and when he had sailed 24,000 miles west, was 24 hours, a 1 day behind the time of London. Thus with me, yesterday was Sunday, thus with you, today is Sunday, and thus with Pratt, tomorrow will be Sunday. And what is more, Mr. Rumgrudgeon, it is positively clear that we are all right, for there can be no philosophical reason assigned why the idea of one of us should have the preference over that of the other. Uncle, my eyes. Well, Kate, well, Bobby, this is a judgment upon me, as you say, but I am a man of my word. Mark that. You shall have her, boy, plum and all, when you please. Done it up, by Jove, 3 Sundays in a row. I'll go down in double LD's opinion upon that. That is the end of 3 Sundays in a Week by Edgar Allan Poe. I would like to read one more poem by Emily Bronte. It's kind of hard to see, but I'll try my best. It's called Self-Interrogation. The evening passes fast away. 'Tis almost time to rest. What thoughts have left the vanished day? What feelings in thy breast? The vanished day, it leaves a sense of labor hardly done, a little gained with vast expense, a sense of grief alone. Time stands before the door of death, unbraidingly bitterly, and conscious and exhaustless breath pours black reproach on me. And though I've said that conscious lies and time should fate condemn, still the repentance clouds my eyes and makes me yield to them. Then art thou glad to seek repose, art glad to leave the sea and anchor all the weary woes in calm eternity. Nothing regrets to see thee go, no one's voice sobs farewell, and when my heart is suffered so, canst thou desire to dwell? Alas, the countless links are strong that bind us to our clay. The loving spirit lingers long and would not pass away, and rest is sweet when laureled fame with crown and soldier's crest, but a brave heart with a tarnished name would rather fight than rest. Well, thou had fought for many a year, has fought their whole life through, has humbled falsehood, trampled fear. What is there left to do? 'Tis true, this arm has hotly striven, has dared what few would dare. Much have I done and freely given, but little learned to bear. Look on the grave where thou must sleep, thy last and strongest foe, and it is endurance not to weep, if that repose seems woe. The long closed war in defeat, defeat serenely borne, thy midnight rest will still be sweet and break in glorious morn. That is the end of Self-Interrogation by Emily Bronte. We thank Edgar Allan Poe and Emily Bronte for their lessons of today. Please like and subscribe, and have a nice day.